Welcome to the Engineer Career Podcast. Stuart.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very good, mate. I kind of never really seen it as a pathway. I never pushed myself like going, oh, I would quite like to do something like that, really, until I kind of started to get towards the latter end of school, and then they hand you the uni prospectus going, what do you want to do, kind of thing. But you need to be able to understand how these environments work to be able to, I think, to be able to go in and make a better impression more immediately. I feel like as you grow and grow, you articulate the right questions to ask. You never know what these opportunities will be in the future, but at the moment I want to keep building technically, try and kind of keep moving up from a work perspective of that.
Welcome to the Engineer Career Podcast. Stuart.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very good, mate. Yeah, yourself?
Good. No, thanks a lot for coming on. It's we obviously recorded the podcast at GCU, and I thought it was only fair to bring you on your own, and I'm going to do the same with Katie as well, to share your career, and we can kind of dive into it a bit deeper.
Yeah, of course.
For a full episode.
Absolutely.
So thanks for coming on the podcast. It's great having you on. I know your career really well. Obviously, we're good friends. I know that there were certain challenges about you getting into industry, and I think it's something that students need to hear. I also think it's maybe something that industry needs to hear as well, because it allows industry to recognise that sometimes there's a bit of a gap between graduation and getting the right talent in industry. So really excited to have you here. Yeah,
no, thanks very much.
So let's start off then. So what sparked your interest in engineering?
I was thinking about this earlier, and I can't really pinpoint what kind of originally did. I think when I was growing up, I was always the guy that was into cars, into planes, into that kind of thing, and it was really probably late in school that I kind of articulated all those interests towards like engineering. Like I never really looked at it as a pathway. I always kind of thought, could I be a pilot, or could I like go into doing something along the route with cars? I never actually knew like what the engineering function was. Like I was a bit naive to that. I kind of thought, I've got a decent base in maths, I quite enjoy that. I quite enjoyed my graphics and design and things, but I always pictured design with drawing pretty pictures and kind of like that. I never really articulated that towards engineering. I think I probably first got interest, just through those interests, through that kind of things that move. It probably came from like my granddad, and kind of he had his like first pilot's license and stuff, and kind of enjoyed all that side of things, and I kind of took that interest really from him, like growing up. Yeah. It was kind of all the fundamentals I knew I liked. I just never articulated that really towards engineering in the beginning. So
they don't in school, I guess. I mean, there's no, you can't do engineering in school all the way up to leaving it. You know, I
think even when you sit and do physics, they never correlate. No. Like certainly when I was at school, I hope it's changed now, but they never correlated anything back towards like, okay, this is how this happens in real life, which is obviously what engineering fundamentally is. I kind of never really seen it as a pathway. I never pushed myself like going, oh, I would quite like to do something like that, really, until I kind of started to get towards the latter end of school, and then they hand you the uni prospectus going, what do you want to do, kind of thing, like as if that's your only route forward, really. So when
you think about the course that you and I did, like obviously quite heavy on the CAD side or the CAE side, the amount of hours I spent in graphic communication in school, and that's where I learned how to use Autodesk Inventor. I mean, unless I wasn't listening, which could have been I mean, I spent a lot of time using the CAD, but it was never linked to engineering.
Exactly. Yeah,
it was just design. It was very much design, visual design.
Yeah. And I loved that in school. Like, see, like Graphcom, I found it really easy. I found it like, I knew even people that I met in like university and engineering and stuff that hated the drawing side of things, right? But I loved it. I used to go in and I ended up getting my like A advanced higher for it, but I actually found the advanced course easier than the higher because it was just your knack, really, wasn't it? But
I agree.
I loved all the 2 and 3 point perspectives, all the kind of taking a 3D visual of something and then being able to lay that out in 2D and dimension it and all that. I just had a knack for that, really. And I always it never correlated towards engineering. I always correlated that towards, you're going to design the front of a magazine, or you're going to like draw like this kind of artistic impression or something. It never really kind of joint back to back. I always thought if they linked that and had some kind of engineering-based school course, like that would link physics and link graphics and go, okay, here's how these all piece in maths and how these all piece together. Like it always, it never really made sense to me until I left and then realised how it all did.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like, but it was just, I loved that side of it in school. Like,
I remember applying for Glasgow Cali. And I remember, I can still remember it. I don't know why at the time, because I didn't know what the IMechE was, but I always remember the IMechE accrediting our course. And I think because I was 2 years ahead of you, in terms of 2 years older than you, I remember I remember seeing it and saying that the IMechE are accrediting this, but I can't ever remember reading it and thinking I didn't think this is what graphics was going to be, but it ended up being the next step, like, working out from an engineering point of view, using your maths and your physics,
exactly.
if your designs actually were functional, if the manufacturing could take place through the FE and CFD. So in a way, probably you and I followed a very similar path, and kind of we did do the right path, but just at the time it just wasn't clear that the step from school into that made sense.
Yeah.
And I won't lie, I mean, I stumbled across it because I applied for product design and engineering and product design and innovation at Strathclyde, and I didn't get into either of them because I've already said this in the podcast, because people were turning up with portfolios and I was like, I didn't have that.
I did the same thing. I applied for product design engineering and sports engineering. Obviously, just a background interest in sports. I thought, all right, if we can combine the two of them, then brilliant. It was basically a product design engineering course just on the basis of sports, effectively. But I just get point blank rejected for the two of them. They never even entertained it. But when I'd the computer aided mechanical course, as soon as you put computer aided in front of it, it doesn't matter what mechanical engineering said. That was kind of like, okay, that's up my street. That's where my general interest base was. And to be honest with you, until the first probably semester, where you're like, right, okay, this is fundamental maths, physics, everything else round about this, you actually start to understand what you're doing.
I know.
And I can understand why a lot of people leave school, come into university and go, nah, this is not for me.
Yeah, I know.
And I kind of fell on my feet with that. Loved it.
Yeah,
loved it pretty much instantaneously, and how much Cali kind of, like, bum up Cali here, but how much they kind of made it, like, they gave me an unconditional. They were like, we want you to come and do this course. We were like, they made the door open. The staff were like, we want to support you and things like that. And speaking to others at the time, it kind of that probably made it as well. But just how it did piece together my fundamental stuff, and how that wasn't really clear at school. Like, I'll be honest, I've kind of fell on my feet in terms of that course we did, and then how that everything's transpired kind of after that. It's kind of all started with just, okay, let's take a bit of a punt based on what my general interests are. Really.
That's interesting. I'm the same. I mean, I was slightly different to you. I didn't quite feel that it was going somewhere at university the first few years. I remember, I've said it before in the podcast, I remember maths was the thing that kind of kept me probably connected to it. I mean, I'm naturally an impatient person, and I was kind of desperate to probably earn money and get a job, and but my maths kept me gripped into university, and because I'm good at math, or I feel I'm good at maths, and then when the CAD started to kick in at the back end of second year, that's when I felt, right, I am in the right place here.
Exactly.
I mean, the engineering then went completely skyrocketed in terms of how difficult it was, but the design side and the analysis side got me going. So how did you find? Talk me through university. So you get into GCU. Talk me through the course from your perspective. I won't give it from mine because it's not about me. It's about you.
As you say, it's kind of when you come in, the first couple of years are really your fundamentals still. You feel like almost you're just in school and there's a different setting with some more specialised based modules. I kind of distinctly remember ones being more favourite than others. We had kind of basic stress analysis stuff quite early, and I always look forward to the kind of anything to do with the drawing side, the CAM side of things, and the basic introductions to, okay, here's your stress model, this is the basics of how we're going to work through this. Anything to do with that was always my kind of preferred route. The kind of applied maths and like that side was never real. I like to think I was fairly decent at it. I now do it for a living, but like it was never like my main core interest. I would never go in and look forward to doing doing matrices and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, you get through it, and you need to understand how all the pieces come together. When obviously the latter stages of university, when you start to kind of have to pull your projects together, you're then asked to work in groups with other people. You then start to, okay, this is building what an engineering environment is like, and you can now relate to that. Like, you can never do anything by yourself, and there you're always kind of relying on others to kind of pick up the workloads and pick up all that kind of stuff, and that was the kind of fundamentals that it started to teach you. Still found it really difficult though at that stage to actually kind of work out, okay, how's this going to work on a day-to-day? How does this work in particular industries? What kind of things would you be doing here or there? I still found that kind of side of it a wee bit hard to piece together, if you know what I mean. How this fundamental academic stuff translates into the industry.
Yeah.
We'll come on to it, but I ended up doing a couple of internship opportunities, which really helped kind of mould that together a bit. Yeah. Although I still had a lot of questions and still a lot of kind of confusion round about that side of it. But yeah, the latter stages of uni, kind of going through the dissertations, I went through a route where I worked with the company that I went to do the internship with, brought back an actual live project that they were looking into, had a chance to make a actual impression or to do some actual real work. How far that actually got, I think the aspirations of a project, especially in university, when you come up with your Gantt chart at the beginning to say, like, this is what we want to get to, and you only get 33% of the way through it. But that was a different story. But it was still things like that helped kind of obviously shape where you end up getting to.
So then when you were coming to the end of, we'll get into, so I will go for your internships first. So like your internship, you had 2 internships, similar to me. You went to do some Babcock at the time, now Altrad. When you did both of those placements, what stood out for you in the placements, which then you took back into university? Because like the reason we need to cover this is so important. Students need to get internships. That it's really important to get them. It gives you an appreciation of industry. Yeah. So share me, what did you gain in them to then bring back into university?
I think just literally being sat at a desk in an engineering environment, you can sit and look about you for hours and watch people talk to each other. People go into meetings and discuss different projects that they're working on at that particular point, and then you're given a small task, really, which pieces into a much larger overall project and a bigger deliverable, which is then so it's basically understanding what your fundamental engineering knowledge is doing, how your task is feeding into a much larger part of things, because effectively engineering companies are there to make money, and they're there to use their engineers to kind of shape how projects are delivered and things. So I think it was more what the stuff I'd learned at university, how am I going to be able to apply that? So my first internship, I went in and I was working with a non-destructive testing department who were preparing, I think at the time, for some upcoming inspection work, and they needed some calibration blocks done for their NDT equipment. So for some of their probes, they needed to be able to calibrate those probes before they put them on the actual product. So my task was to actually design in CAD a little kind of wedge, which was basically being used on the calibration probe to get that 3D printed. So I ended up going out to a company to get that part printed and delivered, and then going down into the labs and actually testing all that.
Brilliant.
So I was basically having a first hand, because the idea with that probe or that little wedge that I designed was that was going to be used on site to calibrate the probes before they went on to do the actual inspections. So as soon as you realise that you're making an actual difference and making kind of applying your knowledge, your understanding of the CAD, your understanding of the manufacturing processes, and your understanding really of a specification of what somebody's asked you to do, and delivering that I think was the main thing for me in terms of the internship, where you could start to articulate how an engineering environment works, more so than what you're actually delivering itself, but understanding how that whole environment works, how to work with other people, the questions you ask, the things like that, which was the main takeaway from it. you're not saying you go in there for 10 weeks and you're ready to be out in the industry overnight.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to understand how these environments work to be able to, I think, to be able to go in and make a better impression more immediately.
Yeah.
I will stress as well that I don't always feel that internships they're an amazing opportunity if you get to do it. But if you don't do it, don't worry. Like
Yeah.
I know, I went to university with guys that didn't have that opportunity, or that opportunity never arose for them, and they're in arguably more senior engineering positions than I am at the moment, at the same age as me. It's like, it's amazing how many different pathways you can get. So if an opportunity presents itself, do it. Absolutely. It's one of the most important things you can do. But if it doesn't, then amazing how many pathways you can take.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. So I'm quite heavy on obviously getting students experience to then, so they can then hit industry running. It's because it benefits both the company and it benefits both the individual. But if they aren't there, you're better putting your energy into either a part-time job or some sort of life experience that can build you, and then recognising that, because industry moves at the pace industry moves at, and can't control that, unfortunately. I think the ideal world is that every student gets access to industry. I mean, I put a poll out the other week asking my LinkedIn if how many engineers in my network are actively working with an intern or a student on a summer placement, and 89% of them said no. So there's a massive opportunity, because I always tend to think, like, you given 2 hours or 3 hours a week, 4 hours a week, which is, let's be honest, is nothing to a student. It would be huge, creating the next version of what you will be or what you were. So,
and I mean, sometimes as well, that's probably a caveat point to where our conversation is, but in terms of an internship as well, it doesn't need to be a 10-week set out program where you go in and do an interview and get. It could be a week where you're unpaid, go into a workplace and feed as much information in as you can possibly can over that week, or 2 weeks, or whatever.
Exactly. Like, it could be a day in industry.
Just reaching out to people, and it's amazing how these opportunities come about.
Yeah.
It can happen easily just by some conversations, reaching out to people, and if you reach out to 5 people and one of them gets back to you, then that's great. It's good.
So you did your first placement in summer of third year, then you went back to summer of fourth year.
Yeah.
How did they differ? Where were you the second time round? So non-destructive testing the first time, second time.
So it was very different to what I did the next time. It was kind of looking at an inspection program, but this time they had some projects looking at the inspection of tanks. So big, large scale tanks. So it was kind of an asset risk strategy department. So they were looking at these large scale tanks, assessing for whether they needed replaced, they needed repaired, and kind of. So my second time round was more a look at the specification and look at what the requirements are for these particular tanks, then build a kind of structured inspection report, effectively, that operator could go out onto site, answer a series of questions with yes or no, like that as a visual and sometimes measured inspection of it. But we were creating the kind of checklist based on the requirements for that. So it was a completely different side of engineering. I wasn't on the CAD making up models and things, but it was also a fundamental side where you're reading a specification, understand what the requirements are, and then building a structured process for, in this case, an inspection, but it could be the structure of how to perform a particular assessment or anything. You are understanding this and basically laying it out in terms which an operator could go and understand. So again, it was a completely different side of things. One that I enjoyed a lot less than the first time round, I'll be honest, and it kind of struck me a wee bit, but it's not until you come away and look back and go, wow, that's arguably more fundamental than the stuff that I was doing the first time round.
Yeah.
So again, another amazing opportunity to go in and working with a different department. You meet completely different people as well that have all got completely different expertise. Not all the time, but you feed off. It's amazing how many different people you feed off. Some people are very extroverted as well, and they'll happily share everything with you, and that's great to feed off. But you also learn to work with people that like to put their headphones in and kind of just and get on with things, and you learn to deal with people in different situations as well. Fundamental, really, in an engineering environment.
Absolutely. No, that's brilliant. So then you went back to university and did your 5th year, graduated, and then talk to me about graduation, looking for jobs. What happened next?
Yeah, so I mean,
you had all your work placements, your internships. You were set up to just walk into a job.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I kind of graduated in the May, I think it was, and the lead up to that, I'd kind of found that when I was doing the internships before, the circumstances at the time meant that Babcock wouldn't be running a graduate programme, which was absolutely, like, it's just a circumstance of the time, really, which was unfortunate. But it meant I was back to the drawing board, really, in terms of getting myself into a position and into the industry. So I kind of had to go. I spent a good bit of time moping, to be honest, and going, right, where am I going to go here? I was working a part-time job in a golf shop at the time, which during the summer, with a keen golfer that I was quite. It was quite.
Yeah,
you set on that
absolutely fine.
So, but yeah, it wasn't until I found that I actually get out and speaking to folk. I did apply for all the ones that you see pop up online, like your big blue chip companies and things, but you end up going into the pool of people that they just kind of point a finger and go, yep, that looks. That's kind of the way it seemed to me to work, really.
Yeah.
It wasn't until actually I was speaking to a guy that that used to live across the road from my parents' house when I was growing up. A guy called, name dropping him, a guy called Derek, but he said, I'm working with a company called Booth Welsh at the moment, and we're looking for a graduate to come in on a mechanical side of things. And it was all just literally just out a bump into him in a whim. And he's like, let's meet up, have a coffee, have a conversation. And it ended up transpiring to be my way in, my opportunity. And Booth Welsh were a company I'd never really heard of before. They're a smaller enterprise, but they're doing a lot of great work in terms of more so in the EC&I process side of things. But they had their wee mechanical startup, so I was able to join there. And that was like the November. So I think
I remember when you phoned. I can still remember when you phoned to tell me.
Yeah. So I came in 6 months out of uni effectively before I started that job, and it was like you do get to the point where you're like, right, I really need to sort something here, because you're then coming back round. You start looking to like the following May, going, there's going to be another lot of engineers graduating.
That's
and
it, yeah.
that pool's just going to keep condensing. Then you get the questions of, well, what have you been doing for the last kind of 6 months? Not as if I've not been doing
trying
anything,
to get a
really.
job. Yeah.
So, no, it was great. It was a real opportunity that came round literally just from, you never know what conversations you're going to have on any particular day. It's just literally the power of speaking to someone. It's amazing how it transpires. So, yeah, I went into work with Booth Welsh.
Booth Welsh. So talk me through Booth Welsh then. So Booth Welsh, you started at. Where was your kind of first project? Was it project work? Was it a graduate scheme you went on? What was
so it was a graduate programme that I was kind of brought in on. I think largely to do with like EDF at the time, like the UK nuclear side of things. So I was based mostly at Hunterston, but the kind of work I was doing was to do with like work management, really. So any work that's done on site and things has an associated card with your various risk assessments but to the back of it and things. It was what it was. There was it was it was a particular task that they were based at Hunterston to do as a subcontractor. As part of that graduate scheme though, I managed to do some piping design and some small stress bits of that, like I kind of dive into what they were doing, but I was working with piping designers really. Which was interesting work. We were doing work at local kind of pharmaceutical sites, and there was a power generation site in Dorai that we worked in as well. And I got some opportunity to spend some time on those sites and actually been looking at a drawing, looking at the pipe work, and kind of doing a lot of like, this is what we're looking at here, and this drawing doesn't seem quite right because that's been capped, and we need to kind of like there was a lot of that which. I feel like you need to do as well. You need to be out there seeing things, and
I'll stop you at that. So value of site work, because it's something that I think you can never talk about enough. But I reflect back when I graduated, I didn't value what site work was until I probably did it, and when I look back at it now, so talking about site work, like, that's actual real stuff happening.
Yeah, definitely. Like, definitely that was the main. A lot of what I did there, I hardly spent any time in the office really, because you were out basically being customer facing effectively. But until you're standing there and you can get a perspective of the things that a lot of people miss. It's just a great place to be, and if you get the opportunity to do it,
it's tangible work. I always tend to find site work. Okay, it might come. There might be the challenge of, you might be away from home. But every company looks after you. That's the first thing. You can earn better than your salary. I'm not going to say you earn mega money, but you earn better than your salary. But also I think it's tangible work, and it's also a good environment to provide value. I always think to people, because people see people who are providing value. So if you're trying to do your best and also kind of maybe do more than what your remit is, I think it can be seen. That's certainly the way I've experienced it.
I think you see some of the best people you work with are the ones that have been on the sites for
some
many
of the most
years.
senior people in organisations.
Yeah.
I think most of them from an engineering area started on site and started appreciating what happens at the coalface, you'll hear.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll kind of vouch for that. Some of the most experienced people I've worked with are guys that have been out there and doing it for years and years, because they just, that fundamental understanding, that perspective of what you're actually working with makes a massive difference. So part of working with Booth Welsh, I was based down at Dungeness for quite a few months, which at the time we were down there for helping with a particular project that they were working on at that particular point. But there was a lot of travel and but when you're based in these sites and you're you're getting that hands-on experience. Okay, we were looking at a particular area of the site. Let's go a walk. Let's have a visual on it.
Yeah.
Let's see what we're actually working with here, rather than just looking at a drawing on a screen and then writing out a report or reading a report and trying to visualise a perspective of it. It's like, right, get the boots and specs on and let's go out.
Yeah.
So I can't emphasise it enough. If you get an opportunity at site work, it's not for everyone, and it's not forever. For everyone, that's the main thing as well. I'll re-emphasise. It's like, I know a lot of people that have done it for years and years, but it's fundamental. I think
it's not for. I think let's think of three key things about site work. I think, well, one of them. I think one which I think people forget about a lot is if you get to go on site as an engineer, you will fully understand the importance of health and safety.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and if you're behind a desk for the first 6 years of your career, because it's up to this, I'm thinking of when I'm 10 years, right? So so first 10 years, if you've not been to site in 10 years, I don't know how you have the same appreciation for health and safety.
No, exactly.
So I think health and safety is one.
Yeah.
Two, what we're going to go with two, I think two being you actually see the actual tangible output of what the engineering, whether it's the stress analysis, the design, the verification, all the tech specs, all of that good stuff has resulted in an output.
Yeah, and it's a fundamental, I think, in the area of design that I've worked in quite a bit. If you're designing something to be put onto a site and you don't have a perspective of the environment that's going into, then sometimes the way that a particular part's manufactured or the way that a particular part's assembled has to be in a particular process based on the environment that you're actually working with.
Agree.
And if you don't see that environment, if you've not got an understanding of what you're working with, then you have zero perspective on how that's done.
That's exactly it. I think you're absolutely true.
That's a fundamental thing that I've found over many years, that something can be designed and built one way, but it's just absolutely not
designed
feasible.
in a sterile environment with no sort of, you turn up to on site with a bit of pipework that doesn't fit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And I would say number three, I would say you find out probably a lot about yourself.
Oh, aye.
As in, is the environment right for you?
Yeah.
Where do you want to go in your career? For example, do you want to be on site? Some it's yes, some it's no. But I think when you do it, you then know. So I think health and safety, tangible engineering, and you find out about yourself. There's three reasons why you need to go on site. If you're a graduate now and you've got an opportunity, go for it.
If you're in an engineering office where somebody has a contradiction to what your opinion is, and you go on site and somebody has a contradiction to what your opinion is, then it's you're met with a different perspective. So that's it. Exactly. But it's sometimes the more cut and dry thing you need to know.
That's true. So Booth Welsh, after being down at Dungeness, what was after that then? Did you do any more projects with them? Because I know you moved on to Altrad. What was the next step after that?
Dungeness was my I was working there when the opportunity arose to come back to Altrad, and again, I have a lot of time for the time I had at Booth Welsh. It was great. It was really, I learnt so much there. I arguably learnt more there than I'd have anywhere else in the shortest period of time.
The foundation of, I always talk about this phrase, the foundation of your career. I always say people and projects, and you could probably say companies as well and exposure. But you're at that stage, you're building this foundation. Like you're walking out of university, and the first real exposure you've got to the real world. I know you had placements, but your actual job, you're breathing it.
Yeah.
It was Booth Welsh, and it was the projects you got there.
Absolutely.
Could you still think back to it at times?
Definitely.
I mean, I'd do so.
You always hark back to it. It was the opportunity. It was also the fact that it was the company that kind of went, right, we'll give you your opportunity as well. You always hold a bit of that.
Favourable.
But yeah, it certainly, when the time came, the Altrad opportunity came round, or Doosan was at the time, I had many contacts there in terms of the from the previous experiences I'd had. Contacts that had said, reach out if there's anything we can do, if there's any opportunities that come up that. So I think they'd posted at the time that they were looking for people, and a few conversations later that transpired, and I got a chance to go there and work as part of their design engineering team effectively.
So would you say that you were going back to kind of what you were wanting or you were hoping to do at that point?
I think so. I think the attraction was there because obviously I knew that environment first off. Yep. Like you're always home back to something. Like I knew how it worked in there. I knew a lot of the people. I knew. And it was attractive to be able to go back and do that. Plus, the design side of it wasn't somewhere I had the opportunity to work when I first did the internship.
Yep.
But based on my university course, it was much more aligned to what I kind of studied and what I kind of had a vision of myself doing. So yeah, it seemed like the perfect opportunity at the time to be able to go back and do that.
Brilliant. So talk me through a few of the projects there then. Because you were there for 4 years, 4.5 years?
4.5 years we were there, so we did a lot of, it was a wide variety of stuff because we were effectively, so there was, within the asset management sector that we had, there was non-destructive testing, there was full-scale component testing, there was some integrity engineering and things. We were really a support function to all of these bits, so I did everything from small-scale design of like manipulators for NDT. I did larger scale like test rigs, and we did like little kind of design repairs on existing equipment, and it was such a variety of stuff. We ended up 3D printing, rapid prototyping towards the end. It was just like, it felt like really, okay, here's a problem. Can you come up with some kind of solution that will fix that? We
real engineering.
Yeah, we mocked up like environments and things. So we had to go and do some site visits, understand, okay, if we are having a person going into this confined space, we need to basically simulate that confined space. So we're going to make a wooden environment of it effectively. So we were doing a lot of the design and making that happen. For some different testing programs and things. So we got such a wide variety of stuff. I think it was absolutely perfect in terms of if you're a designer, just being able to, you had a lot of structure and you had a lot of like specification and requirements, especially with some of the clients you were working with who had some pretty rigorous environments that they were demanding the equipment to be worked in. But you had the autonomy to go, okay, start with a blank CAD, like, and just see what you come up with, kind of thing. And it was like, that autonomy was great as an engineer with a kind of mind that as soon as you start to piece something together in your head, you're able to just kind of go, right, this is what we're thinking about doing, really. And it was great. When I look back, it was really it was a good
time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so. I mean, I know it as well. I mean, I was there for a number of, I can't remember how long, but yeah, for me it was just a great environment. Well, it was an opportunities, but I think I always felt it tied into, I don't want to say, like, you know, when you came out of university, that kind of time period where you got to explore in your engineering, like you said, there's all those different areas where it would be like component testing, there was non-destructive testing. There was almost always something happening, which was
yeah.
you could either get involved in or you were kind of pushed to go involved in, and you were always having to bring up these kind of like bespoke solutions, which was ideal. I mean, it really kind of tested how you thought and also teamwork, and you're working with like senior engineers who kind of gave you that buffer, I felt, to kind of like go and come up with solutions, and I'll tell you if it's right or not, or I'll comment on it, which to me is what I asked you this during the live podcast, and I've said it to so many students, and students always ask this. It usually goes along the lines of, I'm leaving university, how do I know that I'll be good enough to be able to do the job? It's like, well, you'll have the support around you.
Absolutely.
There'll be very few organisations that don't have that support mechanism. Companies will tell you they'll do training. Like, training's great, but if, as long as you've got that supportive senior principal engineer near you who will just give you that, reassurance around ideas and the time, that's what you need. And that's what, to me, that's what Deuce and Babcock and Altrad were.
Yeah,
probably still are.
Put it in this perspective, I've not come across a senior engineer who wasn't willing to help. In some capacity. Some are more receptive than others, and some have more time than others. And that's completely understandable. But the people that have been there, done it, that have got the experience, are absolutely fundamental to young engineers coming into the industry. And most senior engineers understand that.
Exactly.
For people to feed, or for people to pick up the processes of how a certain department works. So certainly in design, like, there was one of my colleagues, Phil, was like, he's a design guru. He's been there, done it for a lot of years, and he's come up with like tons of designs across the areas that we were working. So effectively, my process would probably be to kind of, come up with my ideas, come up with my concept of what I'm thinking, and then probably sit and run that by Phil and have a bit of a conversation. And it's like, there was obviously other colleagues that you had there that you would bounce ideas off, or especially if you're trying to source materials or source particular off-shelf parts that would be good to be part of your design. But even just throwing some kind of novel questions that it might take you 20-25 minutes to go and find the answer for, a lot of these guys just top of their head either know where to go and look for it, or know what you're actually looking for yourself.
Exactly.
So that aspect of it is you're never chucked in the deep end.
No.
There is a certain element of that, and I feel like as an engineer myself, I am someone who goes, I'll do that bit of like, I'll try and dig in and find that answer out by myself before I immediately go and ask someone. But you've always got that support network there of the senior guys. There will be times that you're asked to take more responsibility yourself. But even then, if somebody's not working on a particular task with you, the nature of your questioning is likely going to be more general anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's also, as your experience begins to build up, that's when that begins to come in.
Definitely.
It's the kind of art of a good senior engineer as well. So,
and the thing is, senior engineers go and ask others as well. Like, it's not as if they know everything. It's a case of that never leaves. There's always somebody with the different expertise, or someone someone that's more aligned to a particular area that you're working on, that will have that bit of knowledge that you maybe don't.
And this is coming from you who's been in the industry. This isn't just us making this up. This is what we've seen. Exactly. So this is. And
I feel like as you grow and grow, you learn, you articulate the right questions to ask.
That's it. I think that's what it is.
I think it's like you kind of, it goes away from it, you build the confidence to ask the questions, but you articulate the questions in a way where you're going to get the most out of what you actually want to know.
Yeah, exactly. And you're probably going to get what you need, or to a kind of quicker point rather than at the start. So you came to the end of your time at Altrad, and you got the opportunity to go to Rolls Royce, back to, or into a role which was linked kind of full circle back to what your degree was in. So stress engineer. Talk me through, how did you get the role at Rolls Royce, and talk me through.
Again, it was like, I'd always been interested in that aerospace industry. I think it's kind of stemming from what we talked about before, like my interest in kind of planes and cars and all sorts from when I was younger. I think obviously Rolls Royce got to a point, they were always based in Derby, so I was always had an interest in being kind of part of a company like that, working in that industry, but it never really transpired, as I wasn't really willing to relocate for that at the time. So when I heard through kind of word of mouth that they were opening a design and stress office in Shannon, which is where I'm currently based, they basically kind of trying to tap into the kind of pool of talent, I suppose, north of the border. I think there's a lot of Scottish people that have relocated kind of down south and things, but it was great to hear that was basically on our doorstep. So I think the job advert actually came up and I'd applied for that. Kind of a different route to really what I'd taken previously, but I felt like my kind of prior experience was, and also the fact that I was in a good job at that particular point, it was almost like a see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm kind of putting myself out there as this is something I've got a really keen interest to do. I haven't touched like the stress side of it since I was through my university studies. I've got a good portfolio of work that I did there, but I'm really keen to kind of do this. I've been kind of trying to find my way back into that role for a while. So when that opportunity came up, it was kind of one that I was really keen on taking. So just went through the process of kind of coming in there. It was kind of, again, one of those that I didn't like. I enjoyed what I did at Altrad, but it was like taking that step towards an industry that I was really keen to work in, and then a job role that I was keen to do as well. So it's quite difficult coming in there because I felt like I was trying to tap into experience that I'd got maybe 7 years prior to that. So I felt like it was a wee bit of time for me to kind of pick that back up. But I suppose it's the company's perspective, looking at what your experience is, realising that, okay, you've got the credentials to be able to do this, but we will help you you've got the right attitude, you've got the kind of, they felt like I had the personality to kind of work within the team environment they have, and we've got a great team there. It's like, okay, we will give you a bit of time to kind of settle yourself into the way we work and the kind of picking those fundamentals back up, and that really kind of was great to be able to kind of go back into that. I've been there for kind of 2 years now, working primarily in rotative stress. Slightly different to what we did before. Largely I've kind of been more the static side of things, and it is quite specialised. Obviously what we do, it's not a specialised industry in terms of the engine side of civil aerospace. So we primarily work with the critical parts, so any parts which are have hazardous effect, basically, if they were to fail. So there's quite a strict, rigid set of criteria that are set by the governing bodies for us to assess around for these parts. But I've been working on the same part really for now 2 years, so it's like it's pretty much it's such a rigorous process, and so many different assessments, so many kind of iterations of design that you go through to get to what your finalised part is. So I've gone from an industry where I was working on 2 different projects at different times, working on a small NDT part for a particular manipulator, to a large scale kind of mock-up at the same time, and then I've gone back into basically now working on the same part for such a long time. It's been a bit of a transition, but the amount of work that goes into that, and there's a defined structure, but you have the end goal that's always there, like kind of hanging fruit. You hear from the wider project as to where your part is kind of going to feed into this bigger like deliverable, and you get a much bigger understanding really of what the business is doing and how you're actually contributing to that. So it's different. The work is so technical. I work with some of the smartest guys that I've ever met, to be honest with you. I can't say that enough. But you realise how you fit into that team. I wouldn't call myself a boffin, but I'm constantly there trying to pick up snippets of information. I now, after a couple of years, feel like I can be the guy that can start to field these questions and kind of help others, and kind of just the natural evolution, I suppose, in a role and things. But kind of joining Rolls Royce, it was like going back to when I had that first outing at Booth Welsh. You felt like, right, wow, I'm stepping into something that I've not really done outside of university, but I've kind of using the experience that you have in terms of how to ask the right questions and how to build rapport with the right people and how to understand a specification, understand, okay, I know this, I know X, Y, and Z, but A, B, and C, I need to kind of get that bit more information about. You kind of build all that fundamental up and kind of apply it. And I think the last couple of years has certainly been tapping into pretty much every bit of experience I've had to try and find myself in the right place.
Yeah.
So
I think, I'm I see this through the lens of a student, and I hear someone say that I left university and I found my way almost to where I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
Not, I failed to leave university and get the job I wanted. You probably reflect on what you did up to that point, and you've used all that knowledge and experience into your role now.
Yeah.
But what's amazing to hear is that I think Rolls Royce wanting to be open to take you on, given the fact you had that time period, because there's probably a conception that you missed the chance.
I mean, there's probably a certain aspect of it. Like if you're a design engineer and you want to go and be a process chemical engineer, then there's a gap there.
You weren't far away from it in terms of design.
Far away from the expertise.
Being someone that used FEA as well, I know it is it's a niche area. And it's somewhere that across the companies I've worked in, it generally is the kind of the quiet part of the office, the guy or the girl or the one or two who are running the FEA, but obviously it's different at Rolls when you've got probably full teams of it doing this kind of analysis work, but it's still awesome to hear that you got that opportunity and to tap back into it. But there's a few of the podcast episodes where could probably ring them off, where the guest has explained where they wanted to get to, and it's taken them a period of time to get there.
Yeah.
But they've not lost sight of it. And I think it's so important, particularly now when you've got students coming out of university and it's maybe there's a lot of noise around getting people jobs, that you don't lose sight of where you want to get to.
Yeah.
You've done it a number of times in your career, patiently waiting between graduating and getting the job with Welsh, and then that evolution into the role where now you're probably where you want to be.
Yeah, I feel so, and I feel like kind of through the years I've always had the question of whether you want to be a really technical engineer, or whether you want to go down a more project-based route into that kind of management of overall deliverables, not doing the singular assessments, that kind of lower down, effectively that lower peg, actually getting the assessment, getting the result, how's that feed into the wider project? So I've fought my own kind of battle in terms of what route I want to take, and that's what a lot of engineers will know themselves, and what a lot of engineers will probably find themselves when they get a few years out. I mean, I could have easily gone away from quite a lot of the technical engineering side of things, but I've always felt I need to do this for a good period of time, and I really enjoy it, and I don't want to get away from that because I feel like it would be hard to get back to.
Yeah.
That's almost what I felt like with the Rolls Royce opportunity, is like I've got an opportunity to be a technical stress engineer here. If that opportunity doesn't transpire, then I'm happy what I'm doing, and I'm happy with the decisions I've made and the routes I've taken, and there's still opportunities maybe to be able to get down that route.
Yep.
But I thought, why not? I'm still at a very early stage in my career. I hope my career spans 50 odd years. I mean, I would retire at some point, but like it's a case of if I wait 10 years, that opportunity is not going to arise.
Yeah, exactly.
But if I do it now, then I think I've just fell into, again, I feel like I've been very lucky in my career so far, where I've kind of, the right opportunities have come round at the right time. I've kind of tried to take those opportunities, and I've kind of fell into the right situation. Not saying that it's been, not saying that it's been short of hardship at times, and you go through stressful times, really some adversity, with the work that you produce, and adversity with the kind of certain situations as well. Like obviously COVID was massive.
Yeah, exactly.
But like you make your own luck as well.
I think you do make your own luck. I believe that. So I was going to jump in there and say you have created because you've looked for opportunities to develop. I know you and I always have this kind of ongoing thing. I'm saying you need to go and get your chartership, like, because you're more than ready for it. But those different experiences you've kind of seeked out. It's not a coincidence that you went back to Altra or producing Altra to having done your placements there when an opportunity came up. It's not a coincidence that when an opportunity came up within a stress engineering role and within aerospace that you then took it. So other people may not see it as an opportunity, whereas you have, and So that's good, and it's good learning for the listener and for the kind of community of engineers who've developing engineers who follow engineering career and are part of the talent network as well, because I know a lot of the talent network asks those types of questions, which is partly one of the benefits of being part of that community. Yep. So moving into, you mentioned adversity. I was going to skip over that question, but I'm going to kind of cover it now. So what has been your kind of major hurdles? Have been one moment in your career which you look back on and go, that was a tough moment, but here's how I got over it?
I think,
You mentioned COVID being one of them, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, COVID was one because I was lucky enough to continue working through COVID. Well, you could look at it in two perspectives, whether you were lucky or not. But I was lucky enough to continue in my work, which I was really keen to do. I know some of my colleagues weren't in that fortunate position where they were furloughed and things where they were. I mean, I couldn't imagine a time where you weren't working because you're continuing just to keep the your kind of brain engaged with that
That's
kind of
what
thing.
it was,
I was then, obviously, when we were short-staffed, I was kind of chucked further in to the deep end with particular projects, which demanded probably more from me than I had kind of delivered before in terms of having an understanding of a wider project, having really sharp deliverables that you needed to meet, which then put a pressure on the work I was doing, which I hadn't really felt before. I did have a lot of support with that, which was great, but there was company pressure, there was client pressure. I was feeling it from different angles, and I'm not afraid to say I had some times where it wasn't like I couldn't really see, like in terms of getting the deliverables done on time. I kind of ran myself into the ground trying to deliver that, and it was probably the first time I'd experienced that as well, which shouldn't really be the case in an engineering environment, but it's sometimes what is demanded. And I think you come to learn that there'll be quiet times, but there'll be really kind of busy and stressful times. I suppose from an adversity point of view, that's probably it's kind of much as it's got. Yeah. You also learn some lessons through the kind of work that you do as well, like in terms of what I see at the moment is there's so many things to consider as part of some of the assessments that we do at the moment that sort of say that things are easily missed, but there's just considerations that you sometimes forget to take, and that's why sometimes the verification process, having your seniors check things and validate what you're doing and having auditable kind of reviews and things, which Rolls Royce are absolutely brilliant at, is a way to capture these kind of things. Yeah. Which can sometimes you think, wow, that's a lot to consider when you think of it overall, but it's building your own processes and structures and stuff like that. It's just working on site with health and safety, the massive focus placed on health and safety, and quite rightly so, on a lot of sites that you work on as well. Like, I've not been averse to anything like that, but I've seen events on site which are a result of various factors and things that can be that luckily in my experience haven't been catastrophic, but you know yourself that it can be. You have to make considerations, and these things have to be taken so seriously, really, and that as well. So I think most of my adversities come through kind of stress and how to deal with situations like that, especially when there's a lot of pressure put on you.
It's you definitely learn a lot around yourself and the kind of building your resilience, even though sometimes it feels it almost breaks you.
You do get that a bit through university with dissertation deliverables and exams coming up and things, but when a client's paying a lot of money, it takes a different. It does.
Yeah. So we're kind of coming close to the end then. So I guess a few of the questions I would ask you would be, what is there anything in the engineering, the world of engineering at the moment that excites you? It doesn't have to be within your area. Is there anything that you think, wow, that's really exciting?
Yeah, I think I see it within Rolls Royce, the kind of introduction of like the sustainable fuels. I think a lot of people look at whether electrification and these kind of things are going to come in. It's just, I think what we'll see now, and something that Rolls Royce are already starting to test, are things like sustainable fuels, which are going to make aircraft a lot more efficient than they are at the moment, and have kind of carbon neutral ways of making this fuel and things. That's something that we kind of see hand to hand already. A lot of the testing is going to incorporate and things like that, which is great. You also, it's sometimes quite hard to see a perspective of like what the future is and what the bigger picture is and stuff like that as well. We're using a lot of AI. Not really using a lot of AI, I should probably re-articulate that, but we are using AI starting to be introduced to make workflow, like work processes that can be tedious, make them more efficient effectively. So we're not using AI to do the fundamental calculations. But if we need data processed, then I think there's been a lot of kind of investment in ways to use that effectively to be able to extract a lot of data, to consolidate things like that, to make our life a wee bit easier, but obviously still in a verifiable and
encrypted way.
Yeah, exactly. But I know there's a lot internally happening to kind of try
that's interesting.
Develop that kind of stuff.
If I was a student right now, I'd be using as much AI as I can. I think it's a massive opportunity you've got if you're a student, because not necessarily for the output of it, but for the learnings of it. Because I think naturally, and it's interesting when you and I spoke last about AI and how quickly things have evolved. I mean, I think back to my first episode, and not many people were talking about AI as the exciting element. Now it's pretty much everyone's talking about it. I think what's exciting about it is if you're a student, you can utilise it because companies just can't introduce it at the speed at which it's been developed. But if you, as an individual, away from the workplace, you can use it and test it. And I mean, I know myself, I'm using a good number of them for automating and for kind of help me do things on my own, which I wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah, I think it should be taken by a pinch of salt as well. It's not going to come and take everybody's jobs. It's a case of, and it still needs. There's still a lot of the work, I imagine, is being understanding like how it can be used safely and things like that as well. So
there's some awesome articles recently, and particularly in the engineer around AI and the need for engineers for AI.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, obviously, this is the Engineer a Career podcast, and it's all about engineering. So I'm not covering other industries, but I think the demand for AI, the demand for energy, the demand for data, to me, that's when I think data, I think energy, I think engineering. So it's exciting. What are your personal goals now that you've kind of found the role that matches your degree and where you kind of wanted to get to in terms of aerospace?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like where I've got, like where I kind of, when I went into Rolls Royce, I kind of felt like I went sideways almost. You see a lot of people moving jobs because they move into a role with a bit more responsibility and things, just with what I'd said earlier in terms of my kind of taking a leap into an area of engineering that I hadn't really worked in since university. That kind of meant a bit of personal sacrifice in terms of the level that I was kind of going in at. So whilst being given the opportunity, I'm obviously building my technical expertise, but I feel like I want to move into a more senior role and then kind of develop from there into more of a technical expertise. There are different ways of going about it. I could pedal a more of a project-based line and kind of not come away from engineering, but come away from that technical side of things. But I feel like at this stage of my career, I just want to continue to build that responsibility and to be in line with where my technical expertise are at that particular point. Not necessarily when I feel comfortable to do that, because I feel like a lot of the good things that you do in your career are when you take a bit of a leap into the unknown, in terms of like, if you're taking on a bit more responsibility, you probably can do it, you just maybe don't have the confidence to be able to do it. So I feel like building that technical side of things would be what I want to do. Eventually I'll get to the point where that might shift. I feel like kind of year to year, probably I take maybe a slightly different perspective at it at that point. And if opportunities come round where maybe like shifting into a slightly different kind of area of expertise, then you never know what these opportunities will be in the future. But at the moment, I want to keep building technically, try and kind of keep moving up from a work perspective of that. I think you're probably the one person that puts on me a lot of time that I've not got my accreditation. I'll reword that in terms of I would like to be able to get accredited, IMechE accredited. It's something I've planned to do for a long time. I've just put it off for whatever reason. So yeah, it's something that I would like to do.
Your chartership need to be supporting IMechE where we can, and
exactly.
I think so. I think it's what is important about it is to show that I've went kind of like full circle in the chartership thing. I really wanted to become chartered when I left uni, and then almost honestly thought you don't have to have a tag next to your name to be, and you don't.
Yeah.
But if you've got your degree, your masters, and you've got the experience you've got, I think getting it's useful, because I think I obviously see through the lens of a student, and I think it's good for students to see that you've went through your different iterations in your career, and now you're chartered. And I think that's quite good, because I know a lot of students have that aspiration, and they a lot of them ask me, "Do you think I should do a masters?" And I say, "Well, if you've got the opportunity to do it, then yeah, because then it's going to help you get chartership." But Yeah, that's the only reason I say it.
Yeah, I think
But I don't want people to think
seen,
I'm like forcing people to become chartered, because I don't think that you need to become chartered. But I think it's a good thing to do if you've got the opportunity to.
I've seen different industries' perspectives on the importance of it.
Yeah, of course.
But I think
consultancies is big in consultancies, because it's a sign of obviously kind of the qualification.
It's a validation of your qualification.
And
it's a validation of your experience and capabilities. And I think even on a personal level, that is something nice to have. It's nice to be not just accredited by the company that you work for, not just accredited by, say, the clients, but having that kind of tag and having that personal, okay, there's engineers across the mechanical engineering, BIMechE I would go through for that accreditation, but to have that kind of validation by your peers that you are a chartered engineer would be something nice to have on a personal level.
We'll get you there, Stuart. So, Kate, the last question. Thanks a lot for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks nice. A lot for I enjoyed it.
Thanks a lot for supporting Engineer Career as well. And I know the work that you do is relatable, but also the work that you've done with the Talent Network as well, and supporting some of the students through that. It means a lot to me in Engineer Career, but also I know to the students as well. So thank you.
Yep.
So we'll close off with what keeps you passionate about engineering.
I think it's just the day-to-day knowing that you're making a difference. I think that for me, I'm in an industry where you see every day a plane in the sky. You see, our office is right next to Glasgow Airport. We sit at lunchtime and watch 4 or 5 planes take off, and it's like knowing that you have a real difference, or you're making a real difference. You're helping not only the industry move forward, which is such a kind of key part of environmental considerations and all that kind of thing, so you're helping drive that side of it, but you're also your work is visible to everyone on a daily basis, and it's heavily scrutinised across areas, so there's that kind of side of pressure, but that's what kind of keeps me going, is knowing that you're having that difference and people are using products that you're having a hand in the engineering of, like all over the world on a daily basis. Really, that's a lot of why I went into this industry, and it's really, it's a kind of constant reminder when you're working that,
Brilliant, I love it.
So,
very good. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. I appreciate it, and
thanks for having me.
Here's to the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cheers.
Thank you.